Man-made civilization is becoming more and more sophisticated in virtue of remarkable technological advances. But the true technology is something that can contribute to human life for enhanced vitality and sustainability. As a professor at Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of KAIST in Korea, I've long been dreaming for making an artificial environment that embraces and takes care of us just like modern nature. Highly advanced digital technology in conjunction with biology-inspired systems could change the way we design, construct, and manage our physical environment. I was lucky to meet a couple of professors from France operating an experimental lab at the Museum of Science and Industry in Paris, shared this vision for a long time. Biodigital City Workshop 2018 in Paris was an excellent opportunity to exchange innovative ideas and potential solutions for more ecologically sustainable and resilient homes, districts, and cities based on digitally enhanced intelligence and bio-inspired planning and design approaches. In July 2018, at the Museum of Science and Industry in Paris, 4 professors and around 13 students from France and KAIST participated in a wonderful workshop, during which exciting outcomes of evolving urban plans based on metaphors of such ecosystems as jellyfish cluster, sand dune, and mangrove forest. This video clip includes a series of snapshots of the 2018 Biodigital City Workshop held in the midst of hot summer in Paris, along with the hottest fever of French World Cup football game event.
Je me baladais sur l'avenue, le cœur ouvert à l'inconnu. J'avais envie de dire bonjour à n'importe qui. N'importe qui, ce fut toi. Je t'ai dit n'importe quoi. Il suffisait de te parler pour t'apprivoiser. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Tu m'as dit, j'ai rendez-vous dans un sous-sol avec des fous qui vivent la guitare à la main du soir au matin. Alors je t'ai accompagné, on a chanté, on a dansé et l'on n'a même pas pensé à s'embrasser. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Deux amoureux tout étourdis par la longue nuit. Et de l'étoile à la concorde, un orchestre mit le corps. Tous les oiseaux du point du jour chantent l'amour. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Je me baladais sur l'avenue, le cœur ouvert à l'inconnu. J'avais envie de dire bonjour à n'importe qui. N'importe qui, ce fut toi. Je t'ai dit n'importe quoi. Il suffisait de te parler pour t'apprivoiser. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Tu m'as dit, j'ai rendez-vous dans un sous-sol avec des fous qui vivent la guitare à la main du soir au matin. Alors je t'ai accompagné, on a chanté, on a dansé et l'on Champs-Élysées. Hier au soir, deux inconnus, et ce matin sur l'avenue, deux amoureux tout étourdis par la longue nuit. Et de l'étoile à la concorde, un orchestre mit le corps, tous les oiseaux du point du jour chantent l'amour. Oh, Champs-Élysées, oh, Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées, oh, Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées.
Everyone, for me I'm Joëlle Champalet and I'm coming from geography studies.
Hello, I'm Jiwan Jung from KAIST and I'm majoring in industrial and systems engineering.
Hello, I'm Edian Ozofer. I am at the end of my first year of double major in science and design.
Hello, my name is Hangjun Park. I'm KAIST and I'm majoring in civil engineering.
So our group chose to work on sand dune ecosystem for this district design using biomimicry. We chose sand dune system firstly because it was an interface between P and M, and which need to grow with very harsh environmental conditions. And we think that we might probably extract some very interesting interactions from this kind of localization. And so we use for example, there is a process of how the ecosystem is gradually formed itself. It's like an evolutive system, so it will not be fixed. It will evolve through time. So it will pass from fruit-alone to full-grown ecosystem in different steps, and these different steps will have interactions between each other. And it's a process that is extended in time. Donc, je vais le refaire en français. Donc nous,
Le principal.
donc, nous, on a choisi d'étudier l'écosystème des dunes, qui est un système évolutif qui va se faire en différentes étapes à travers le temps, avec des relations entre ces différentes étapes. So,
Right, so as Joel introduced, this sand dune ecosystem has some interesting properties. As you can see from here, this is where the sea is, and this is where the inland area is. So as you go further from the sea, you can see the more diverse species that can grow on the land, and it can be accounted for by the protection provided by this frontal dune, which can protect the sand wind and also salty wind and also other harsh conditions that she just explained. And also it can be accounted for by the stabilized soil, which is due to this some frontier species, so to speak. They can survive even the harshest environment, so they stabilize soil in the first phase, and then it can help for the later species can grow. And we have further looked into this dynamics that exist in this ecosystem, and I'm afraid if you cannot see the words here clearly, but on the upper left side, these are the organic materials that are the sources of this any plant forms that can grow in this ecosystem. And here is the animals that interact with this ecosystem as well, and precipitation or some wind. And the most intriguing part of this ecosystem can be found in this central part where the plants exist, and you can see there are several boxes here. So we can divide the plants into several groups because each group has some different rules and can grow in the later steps. And another essential role played by this interaction between this mycorrhizal fungi and the plant roots are very interesting because these fungi helps to distribute nutrients. They help to promote the growth of other plants due to this network. So we've transformed this kind of hand drawing into some kind of a diagram that can capture the inherent dynamics and also the process of this ecosystem. So there are some biotic factors as well as biological factors. And when seeds are dispersed by either wind or sea or altogether, there are some species that can survive. And then if they survive, they increase the biomass of this sand dune ecosystem, which can later be used by the other plants that will grow in the later step. And the outcome of this step A is fungi network and stabilized soil, as I said, and the frontal dune. So questions of each species, because otherwise it would not be able to capture the important aspect. So unless there are enough fungi network, stabilized soil, and frontal dune, there is no step B that can start. But when this is enough, then the step B can start. So based on the outcomes of step A, now the much more complex ecosystem. So to continue, so based on the outcomes of step A, now the more complex ecosystem can develop. And the most interesting part of this step is that there are so many interconnected arrows that from animals and from photosynthesis with these trees and also the water that are sources of these plants. So. So we thought that we could kind of make an analogy between this natural ecosystem and the urban development. So that's how we made this kind of very similar type of diagram. So there are also, instead of seeds, we have people, and people will migrate, and whether or not they settle down to a specific place, if they settle, then some buildings will form in the first phase. And then it will also feedback by this kind of feedback loops. People will gather and gather, and later, when there are enough transportation or communication services and works, then they will transition into step B. So in step B, as I said in the natural ecosystem, the important role is played by this network of these several factors.
En fait, on a fait une analogie entre l'écosystème naturel et les écosystèmes urbains. Donc on a par exemple transformé, pour nous, les graines représenter les hommes, et selon le fait qu'ils vont s'installer ou non, on va avoir l'émergence de bâtiments. Et ensuite, on a fait plusieurs analogies, par exemple le système de champignons mycorrhizales et les systèmes de transportation, de transport, de communication et les réseaux humains. Et donc, on a fait cette analyse.
So, to summarize the main points we've made, there are three pillars of our district design philosophy that are deduced from the sand dune ecosystem. The first one is progressive formation. As you've already seen, this sand dune ecosystem forms itself as time goes by. So similarly, we can think of a district design that this is not fixed at the first phase, but it will develop as time passes. And also, the second important factor was the network played by fungi and also plant roots. And likewise, we can think of human or urban development that are enabled by the network of new buildings that is connected from the original area where people would already have kind of lived for a certain period of time. And also, for these two kind of processes to happen, resources is some necessary condition we can think of. So in terms of sand dune ecosystem, there were organic materials, but in district design, we can imagine that these correspond to some attractions of the area or resources in this area. Maybe we can think of major public transit or cinema, parks, and etc. But instead of using the step A and step B, we've modeled this type of process into using the state transition model. So firstly, some kind of place can be developed when there is influx of people, and then it will promote the development of another area thanks to the network connected to these two areas. And you can see that this area has already developed to a certain state B, as you can see from the color. And this is in state A because it just started. And then these two states also will connect to the third place, which is in state A. But then we can see that this place has got into the state C, and this one to state D. So in this way, we can think of developing this district in a progressive form, as this network has an important role.
Here are some basic rules that here are some symbols that marks for the illustration for layer, and this rectangular shape shows 2, 4, 6 floor buildings for 5 each, and this triangle shows 5 family consists of 3 people by a directional arrow for load. These 3 symbols will be used very importantly for food, service, culture, and these are some examples of the related buildings. So we have state transition to state A to the state B, and here we have an if-then methodology here. So if there are sufficient attractive factors in the area, then people will move in and buildings will be built. So we had a number of boundaries for 5, 7, 10, and so the number of buildings increased, then the diversity and the difference of the building occurs. So when the buildings reach 5, there are some gathering place, and the 7 makes the temporary market and restaurant. When the 10, large road connecting to the place of the surrounding areas. And if we meet some conditions here, we go to the state B, and this is the state transition. For here, we had made the diagram for state A to B, and here we can see there are 4 zones that have some different facilities and traits. So this is for the variation of the state A from A to the B. So we will show you about the 4 different zones diagrams. Here, for the zone 1, there is here we can see the 4 area and district area. So state B, we have if people still move into the area at the less pace of state, then we stated that for the zone 1 there are market building, nursery, and a park, and the floors will be added to the pre-existing buildings because the floor has increased. So these buildings consist of 3 floors of housing and 1 floor of office. Next is another succession of different zone 2 and shared garden, premise, nursery. For the next slide. Next zone 3, you can see that there are some difference compared to the other zone, and the zone 4 is also one of the area that we have made a variation with different others. So from B to C, there is also the state transition, and this is very similar to the state A to the B, but here we can see more complex things, and the floors increase, and the number and the varieties of facilities have some increase. And there are zone 1 and 2, but we didn't make the description of the illustration of the climax because we are focused on the state transition and the development of our city.
So to have all these states to happen, we need to have a network and road and street networks that needs to develop, and it needs to be with each stage there need to be a more and more densified network, because each area is supposed to support the development of others, and there is interconnection between them, and without that network they can't pass from one state to another. En français. Sorry. So for us, we try to think how we can make this evolutive system with not everything built from the start, and which has expansion in height and in width. And we think that modular construction could be a solution, because it allows us not to build from the beginning all of this floor, but to add them and to also enlarge the areas. And it looks like a good solution to have an evolutive system.
Here's a 3D model that will illustrate the purpose of the San Unique system. So we considered that since the area was a railroad district, we had to put like 10 meters height above the railroads to be sure that we won't bother the traffic. So here's the base where the analogy to the sand in the dunes, there is nothing. Then there are some attractive points like the National Library, the Bercy Stadium, and Cinematheque, and cinemas and theaters, and etc. The orange color is for the buildings. It will go lighter and lighter, and the red color is for the attractive points. The light blue, this blue is for the water. The darker blue is for the services, and the green is for the parks and gardens and green stuff. So for step A, we focus on the middle areas that are quite huge and that allow us to develop horizontally later. So we build two floors residential buildings. We create also a common market that will provide food and other things to the inhabitants, and also attract other people. And here you get services like nursery, for instance, and connection. Then for step B, we just colonize new areas like this one and this one, and also we grow in height with higher buildings of 4-floor buildings, and we also build a park and running area and etc. Near the peripheric, in order to, since we can build residential areas here because of the noise and disturbance that come from the peripheric. So you've got shops, common gardens, and that's it, and a park. And then we reach the climax of the step C, that is for now the full-blown ecosystem, urban ecosystem. We add some bureaus like there, and also we build 6-floor buildings, and we colonize the full area. So other views, like this one. So it's you can see the buildings better, but just for you to see. Here's a view from the peripheric, from the highway, so you can see better so you can better see the park and this area. And here's a view from above the area to make you understand the horizontal expansion, because we first saw the horizontal, but there is also an horizontal expansion. So we start with this area, and then we grow and grow and grow, and to reach the full area. Okay.
So lastly, we tried to have some exploration ideas that are ideas we didn't completely fully think, but that we just have imagined. So for example, in our ecosystem, in the seed model we made, we already have chosen the buildings or the kind of services that will be built. But actually, if that system were to be built in reality, it's supposed to meet the needs of the people. So there is a need of a consultation system that can be made by digital tools for us to know which kind of structure is actually needed or wanted by the inhabitants. Secondly, we have thought about a human organization, a human network, who will be founded on the service-given community. It means that you're going to live there, you know that you will have to help your neighbor if he needs help. So for that, there is a need of an implementation of a digital system, at least to know all the skills of the inhabitants when they come. For example, their intellectual or the physical skill, and even their material, that could be material objects that could be shared by people. And that system needs to be able, they need to be able to upload it and to upgrade it when they have new skills, or when they leave, or when there is new inhabitants. And secondly, it needs also to explain the availabilities of people, when they can help the owner and when they don't, because you're not always available to help. So thank you, and do you have any questions?
So, my question is, as far as you know, there's two ways of making some district design. One thing is just like you suggested, it's like evolutionary process, where, in which you have like a step-by-step kind of development of the site. The other one would be something like a Big Bang approach. Right? You have like some nicely organized master plan, and based on this master plan, you completely successfully manage to cover the entire site. Really, different capacity, which is like that. So, what would be the advantage of evolutionary process compared to the Big Bang approach? What is it?
By this way of building a district, you can also like test your ideas, because since you don't build a full-blown ecosystem just in one at once, then you will be able to see if problems occurs or new things, and also the thing is that it will be less expensive, and maybe you will be more ambitious, because since you don't have to build the full ecosystem at once, you will be able to provide services and economical attractivity, but
will welcoming the new inhabitants as, I don't know, maybe it could be ambassadors of this new district, because if we think this district will just be evolutive as an extensions, it's like we know in nowadays, it's we need more space, so we put just another another place above or under the ground. And so maybe, do you think what interaction we can imagine between these first inhabitants of this step A and the second inhabitant of the step B, and after the step C, to be very close, and that we can imagine have a neighborhood and sharing and helping and etc. I don't know if it's a question or
Also, the reason why we tried to think of human organization, but we didn't have both the time to completely fully develop the human organization system, which I explained is a service given. So if you want to live in that kind of district, you know that you will have to have a relationship with them. That's the basic principle. If you don't want to have a relationship with your neighbors, maybe it's not the right place for you to live in or to be interested to live in, because we didn't completely design or install the service organization system, but actually, if you have time, it will really complete the idea of an evolution and people that will help each other, and there is also the idea of the human network that is really important.
Now you organize from the beginning until the end, and therefore the flow is good, and then really like your completeness. I just want to give you a very general opinion. So I two things, okay? So first one, what do you really learn from this? So I want to ask you what do you learn from this? And then the second one, so I believe that maybe in the future, maybe if somebody choose very similar system like a Sandung system or something, right? So maybe you, because it's very short time, and then while you are doing, now it becomes like you are kind of Sandung expert, right? So if somebody else want to do this kind of research, right? So far, what do you feel your like constraints or restriction now, and then what do you want to recommend the kind of person to for the future work? So lesson learned, and then limitation, and then for the future work, right?
For me, it was really interesting because I'm a geographer, so I do not necessarily think about the height of buildings or the way they will be placed, the relationship in between. And it was really interesting because I never tried to apply like an ecosystem, and even to know an ecosystem, to apply it to a urban district. That's really interesting for me as a geographer. What was it? And to recommend, what I would recommend, maybe all the things inside of the extended ecosystem aren't the right answers, and maybe there is either ecosystem we can combine with this kind of system to make it more performant or more efficient or more interesting, actually?
First of all, I thought it was a little bit hard to think of any other ecosystem because we are not given in the first place about what kind of buildings we are going to build or what kind of project sites we were going to give them. So yeah, in that case, and we were just given to choose an ecosystem, so it was hard to think of which one is better or not. And in that way, so after that, we anyway chose one, and the way to develop some kind of reasons that we chose this ecosystem was kind of learning experience, I think. Yeah.
First, when this is a diagram of how city grows. First, there is a land, and it grows into a city, which draws more population into the city, and which creates the need of the transportation, and it creates, so people create roads and the other like public transportation, such as trains or like ports, or which creates like diverse pollution such as air and soil pollutions, which finally changes the climate of the city, and this creates like bad aspects of the cities, which creates people to find new spaces for the area. So people find new spaces such as satellite cities,
and create new cities, and these are the like the web that so the population creates technology and so on and so on. So this is how the jellyfish works, and so the new habitat, there's a habitat and algae grows and jellyfish, and mutualism causes certain species to increase and the competition decrease certain species, which and this jellyfish, the effect of the jellyfish causes the positive feedback. So we got this diagram or simple algorithm from the jellyfish, which initial state causes the following factors on and on, which these factors like affects the initial state as well, which when this final factor, when it reaches to the limit or tipping point, it creates a new state, and this following steps goes on and on until and so
then we looked at how the algorithm that we found for the jellyfish, which was a very cycle, it was just a repeated cycle, how we could identify those positive and negative feedback loops in the algorithm that we make for the city based on the study of the Bangkok, for example. So we found several positive feedback loops which we would want to integrate into our district design, and also negative feedback loops that we want to also use to control the growth of the city, and also some positive feedback loops depending on if the factors lead to good outcomes or negative outcomes, to follow those loops early in the stage of the planning, so we can set a good basis for a natural city growth, and let the feedback loops build the city automatically, like in the jellyfish, which takes over its ecosystem. So then looking at some analogies between the ecosystems of the jellyfish and the ecosystem of the city. We have, as I said, some positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops. So the positive feedback loops in the long term would help to maintain a balance in the materials and energy going in and out of the city. So it's no longer dependent and contributing to changes in the environment, but it's able to maintain a balanced state. With also the negative feedback loops helping us to calculate, as we will see later, a gradual and a measured controlled increase in population, so that the balance caused, or the balance that is created through the population increase or the road infrastructure and food production increase doesn't have negative consequences on the other factors and other interactions in the city, like the employment, the waste treatment, the water treatment, and all the material inputs into the city. So our strategy is to use a series of positive and negative feedback loops in the creation of a mechanism to increase the population, and also in the systems that will happen in the city once the long-term stability is achieved, in order not just to have a stable and reliable population increase, a balanced increase, but also a long-term continued stability. So medium-term to get controlled growth, and long-term to have some systems with positive feedback loops, which will help the city become independent, or the district become independent for its different needs, and also potentially help the other districts of the city through some exchange.
And now I will introduce this method to analyze the population model. The system dynamics model is tool to simulate the feedback loop, and especially for the population model. So as Lou explained, we have the positive feedback. So I use the term the community activity. This means making a new loop or new ecosystem of urban and increase the attractiveness to attract more people. And also we have the negative feedback, that is pollution or congestion or the increase of land cost, and also the unemployment if we don't have enough office building or economic system. So when you go back to the ecosystem of the jellyfish, the left one is when you imagine the jellyfish or some other species in the closed system, it can be reach to the catastrophe. It is called the Universcience catastrophe. So for the sustainable development not to the left one, for the sustainable development we should care about the carrying capacity. So we need to learn from the jellyfish how to make the carrying capacity to stabilize our population and increase to the next stabilized phase. So, for example, if we have the unbalanced situation that we don't have enough housing, the population could go to get a rise, but because of the cost of living, the land cost is too high, the population will decrease again. So it is not unstable and not this is unwanted situation for the urban planning. So to avoid this kind of situation, we need to make a decision making of urban planning and I will explain more about the model after explaining our design plan.
So this is the really simple like diagram, not diagram, the animation thing about the urban planning. So our urban planning is mostly, our goal is to achieve, like he said, like long-lasting city, long-lasting district. So the left side is Bercy, which is a recreational area, and further on is the river, and this area is Picpus, which is a residential area. So first we will cover the like the station as well as the railroad, and then there will the nearby this pre-existing area, the hubs will form, mostly I think residential area, and connecting these hubs there will be some areas with connecting these hubs, and for the remaining area, there will be some parts for the residents, such as parks or office areas.
So if you look at it at a bigger scale view, from the site we have many transportation links serving different areas around the site. So the first aim is going to be to connect the site to the neighbouring districts, so that just like in the jellyfish, which connects itself to the existing habitat by using the benefits that the existing habitat can give it, we want to create some new links between the circulation and transport hubs of the city, which will serve as a basis for the growth and the organisation of the new population. So connecting the two sides, the two neighbourhoods which today are disconnected, and then at a longer term to establish a backbone or a connection for the whole site, and linking the different functions of of the whole neighborhood once the first stages have been planted, once the beginning has started developing. So in the land use areas, we would have some first stages of very dense, very high story, or 8-story buildings with mainly housing and services for those new inhabitants, located in areas close to the existing transport hubs, in order to not have to place services immediately for these new inhabitants, but to rest in the first term on the existing more general services. And then as the time goes on and we connect along the links between the two sides of the site, new services which won't be just limited to the inhabitants but also to the larger city, like offices and wider use services will help also maintain the presence of a new population. And then as we go further, the services present on the site linked to, for example, water treatment and waste materials treatment, linked along a main central corridor which will organize the site, will help the district become independent from the speculations from outside of the site. With, for example, the transport of goods and food along the rail network existing under the ground. And in the final stage, as the population still increases, but the needs of the population in the long distance future are not known, the main areas outside of the main areas of transport influence will be occupied for less dense uses, such as farming or low areas of recreational green spaces.
And with this dynamics model, we can check and justify and modify our plan. Even if this is a simplified model compared to what we've seen before, problem is the high unemployment ratio. It is above the allowable level. So the second phase, we made an office building and also the housing building, and so we reached to another stabilized level. But the other problem arises. One is the congestion and also pollution. So we need to make some more road capacity and the waste treatment. This is the typo. And so we reached to the next level of the population stabilized level, and still the congestion has to keep to more increase because we have 30,000 of housing, but we have only 23,000 of population, so we need to more make a load capacity or also the job office building. And for the long term, we made because the first phase is the redensification of our area, so we need to make more high-rise office buildings and also increase the road capacity. So from this procedure, we can reach to the population of almost around 30,000. That is the amount of our housing plan. So this is how the feedback loop works in our urban system and how we make the decision and strategy for the urban planning.
This is the SketchUp that we did for our urban planning. So the black area is the bridges that connects the Picpus and the Percy area, and the purple area is the backbone bridge, which connects this area and the left one, and The proportions are not exact, so I think the bridges are slightly bigger than I expected. And firstly, the like dark deep green area, there will be some bridges, the buildings that will be developed, mostly residential area, and then this blue area will be created. This blue area will be created to meet the demands of the second plan, and later on, this light turquoise area will connect these areas. So connect all the hubs by building this structure across the area. And finally, these leftover areas will be used further on for the fourth plan. And this is the view of our city plan. Thank you.
So you guys did a really nice job. Instead of giving some questions, I would like to have some comments. Actually, in your group, I think the most important thing is like some maintaining balance within the community. Just like I did actually yesterday, I talked about the homeostasis, which is kind of a mechanism that maintains balance among different elements in the body system. So in your case, I mean, jellyfish could be a symbolic sort of object that is representing some negative effects. The negative effect can be spread all over the community if you just let it go. But in your case, the focus should be then, if that kind of negative effect is happening, then you have to sort of fight back so that you can actually make the resilience back or the balance back to the community. So in that sense, suppose there could be some environmental problem, such like the transportation problem, whatever problem happens, you should be able to stop that kind of effect spreading through the community by adding or by modifying some existing facilities or the development schemes or something like that. So you always should be able to maintain some kind of really harmonized balance around this community. So in that sense, you are talking about some negative effects, and then you actually provide some kind of solutions from time to time. And eventually, the final goal, as I said, should be really the maintaining the balance of homeostasis in the community. So for that, I think you should be a little bit more clear sort of representation how you can actually make it that happen once some bad or negative effect happens. So reorganizing that sort of things would be really make this project more successful, clear. So anyway, it's really really nice job you guys did.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I think it's something that we didn't mention about how once we calculate and once we figure out what the problems are, how to adjust it. But I think one of the main answers is to not do all the transformation as soon as possible. But always leave a leeway to either increase or reduce. If it's the residential, for example, the stage of not getting to the full capacity immediately, to allow the possibility of reducing or decreasing, or else for example, the food production, to allow some public space which can either be used for the food production in case there's extra need, or not to use it. So to have spaces which have different possible functions and can be easily adaptable depending on the situation.
As all the other presentations, your work shows how we can use new tools due to, on the one hand, ecosystem, and on the other hand, digital things, to think urban planning, territory, and but also buildings and districts and so on, with more adaptive methods. So that's very interesting. In your case, maybe I would especially appreciate the way that you actually worked about balancing the ecosystem, the urban ecosystem, as Professor Chang said, and the special role that you gave to feedback loops, which is something very, 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 very fundamental in our opinion. So that is a very important point in your work, and it's, we would need hours to talk about your work and about the other work. So we don't have this time, but it's very interesting. So I hope that all of you will keep on working on this kind of tools, methods, and way to work and to renew the way that we manage and create and produce our cities and our territories, because we really need that for the next century and for the centuries after. So yeah, I think that's very important.
And we will talk about the mangrove ecosystem building. So this is our process of this workshop. So first, we talk about the research of this ecosystem. So first we talk about this ecosystem and mangrove. We found that this species of mangrove and how this mangrove ecosystem flow. So
we can find this red mangrove, black mangrove, white mangrove, and their feature. So next we research about mangrove. So we can find these features, for example, catch carbon with their leaves, live in salt water. Normally the plants live in just using water, and it catch or transfer their oxygen from their root, and they have strong structure with root. So we talked about how it for these features, what can we solve for solve? So from this feature, we have just make some solutions, like it's because the mangrove catch carbon with their leaves, it will clean our city air, and because they live in salt water, it can produce salt and so on. So then we adapt this solution and feature for our city, like that. Green building or tower, agriculture, raising abundant food. And we make, for these features, we want to visualize that, so we make a diagram, and from the diagram we can make 3 algorithms: water flow, food flow, and the structure of mangrove. And finally, we got this site, and we did site analysis. The area, we can find this area and population density of Paris, and so we guess how many people live in this site. And we also find these 2 circles. The yellow circle is cross-meeting point in this site, and the green circle is the nature area in this site. Also, we can find 2 potential dynamics. First is this blue, and second is yellow. First one is nature to city. Because the underside there are Seine River, and upside is Paris Street, so it looks like nature to city. And these rivers, it is city to nature. And also we can find the 3 hectares, like transition between park and railroad, and transition between train station and railroad, and finally we find street and railroad. And finally we use features, and we use features to solve the problem, and using for the city.
I will explain from here. This is the section of our given area, and mangrove system has the 3 type of mangrove: red mangrove, black mangrove, and white mangrove. Like the mangrove system, we want to build a city like this, and the human residential area, and food park, and the energy thing. And here are the farming the cows and sheep, and here we will do the agriculture. Like red mangrove, in here there are many interactions in here, because this is the train station, and many humans are staying or going through this area, and going to here is being a more like nature, the farming agriculture area. So let's think about the vertical view. That in the above there are the like the mangrove system, there are many animals, and in the city there are many humans and animals, and the agriculture links in here, and at the ground there will be the purifying water systems in here, and transportation for humans, and underground there are roots which support our buildings. And this is what will be the residential area. And there will be a sensor elevator in here. And maybe we need many pilates because we are building this area in the first floor, not start from the ground. We want to remain the old stations and railroad in here, and we want to build from the first floor. So we have many pilates, and pilates will have the function of purifying water. And there will be, of course, the air fertilizer. And this is our final design of our city. There, in here, the stations in here, so I want to build a landmark building in here. And as I explained, there will be the residential and commercial area. And here, residential and agriculture. And here, the raising ships and cow and energy generation. And here, we're gonna do the agriculture, vertical farming. And in residential and commercial area, there will be many people because of the station, so many facilities like hotels, department store, or commercial and residential. And there will be this third is where we meet the people and the nature. So this is for the residential and agriculture area. And here is for the farm the sheep and cows. So many trees will be in here. So livestock can be very smells bad. So we want to build a boundary for the tree. And finally, in here we'll do the agriculture only for the agriculture vertical farming in here. So. Oh, and the landmark, maybe this is can bring more people in here. And this is our 3D models in here, because I don't have much time, I cannot design perfectly, but there will be the landmark in here. And this is for the residential area, the residential and commercial area, and this is for the vertical farming, not vertical farming, the agriculture and residential area. And here I cannot design yet because of time, but this will be the livestock and the energy generation, and here will be the vertical farming area. And this is our final physical models. Like this is the campus. So this. Oh yeah, actually screen the picture pictures. So yeah, this is the this is the end of our. Oh.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like this. It's very simple because it's not the end and it's in the middle of the process. So it's very simple, but it's very dangerous because this is gonna be fall. Oh no. Thank you. Is there any questions?
of the workshop, so we would like to really give our to thank very sincerely all of the participants, and of course especially our colleague from KAIST, so Professor Lee and Professor Chang. Thank you very much for being here and for your very interesting participation in the coaching of the teams and all your comments, especially on this method, which is maybe not so familiar to your work. We saw that there are many links, but it was something maybe also new for you. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you to all the public also who has come for the last presentation, and congratulations to everybody. A small word from Patricia, who is so sad not to be here today. She asked us to tell you that of course she would have liked so much to be here, and she was very happy to work with you during the first week. And we will send her all the pictures and all the videos and etc. And she will look at them with a lot of attention. So she also thanks you, all of you, especially the professors, but also all the students and all the participants for your participation. And she was very happy again to work with you.
Thank you very much.